The Valerian homeworld was a peaceful place. Its skies were bright with two suns, and its cities were built on great cliffs that looked over deep blue oceans. The Valerians themselves were gentle creatures. They had long necks, soft green skin, and large eyes that showed kindness and fear. For many years they lived in peace, growing their crops and exploring their calm world, but peace did not last. One day a dark fleet appeared near their planet. These invaders were brutal and cruel. They had metal ships that looked like sharp teeth ready to bite. The Valerians knew they could not fight them on their own. Their weapons were weak and their soldiers were few. The invaders wanted to take the Valerian world for its rare crystals that could power entire starships. The Valerians' hope was fading fast. In the Valerian capital, the leaders gathered in a tall glass tower. Their leader, a calm Valerian named Thalon, stared at the star map. The invaders were moving closer, destroying towns and cutting off supplies. "We need help," Thalon said quietly. "Our people will not last long." His advisors agreed, but the Valerians had one problem: they were not well known. Other planets in the galaxy saw them as weak and unimportant. No one wanted to risk sending ships to help a small world in danger. Thalon made a decision. The Valerians would send a distress signal. This signal would be sent to the whole galaxy. It would ask for help, any help. It was a call for mercy. The signal was simple but powerful. It told the story of the Valerians' suffering. It asked for peacekeepers, for soldiers, for anyone willing to protect a small world from destruction. It carried a message. "We do not want war. Please help us survive." Days passed as the signal traveled through space. Many planets heard it but did not answer. Some said, "It is not our fight." Others said, "The Valerians brought this on themselves." The galaxy was large and full of dangers. Many thought it best to stay out of trouble. But then, a strange reply came. A ship answered the Valerian distress call. It was not from a polite ambassador or a council ship. It was from a group known as the Deathworlders. The Deathworlders were famous across the galaxy for one reason. They were survivors of the most dangerous planets. These humans came from worlds where the air could kill. The ground was filled with deadly creatures, and the weather was savage. The Deathworlders were tough, strong, and feared. They did not ask questions. They did not talk much. They acted. The Valerians did not know much about the Deathworlders, but their arrival was clear. A fleet of large warships was heading toward the Valerian system. The ships were armed with weapons that could destroy entire cities. The Valerians watched in fear and confusion. When the fleet appeared in the sky, the Valerians expected diplomats. They thought the humans would come to negotiate or talk about how to help, but the Deathworlders did not come with words. They came with force. A human commander stepped forward. His name was Captain Reyes. He was tall and strong, with sharp eyes that looked like they had seen too many battles. He spoke to the Valerian leaders without ceremony. "We heard your call," Reyes said, "but we do not send peacekeepers. We send fleets. Your enemy will leave or they will be destroyed." The Valerians were shocked. They had asked for help, but not for war. They feared what the humans would do. Would they bring more destruction? Would they make the situation worse? Reyes did not wait for answers. His ships moved into attack formation. The Valerians saw the invaders' ships ready to fight back. The sky over their world filled with bright flashes and deep roars as the battle began. The Deathworlders fought with skill and fury. Their weapons struck hard and fast. They did not waste time. Slowly, the invaders began to fall back. The Valerians watched, amazed and frightened, as the humans turned the tide of the battle. At the end of the day, the invaders fled. The Valerian world was safe, for now. After the battle, Thalon approached Captain Reyes. "Why did you come like this? Why not send diplomats first?" Reyes looked at him, serious but calm. "Your world is worth saving, but saving it takes strength. If we waited for talks, your enemies would have crushed you. Sometimes, to protect the weak, you must be the strongest." Thalon nodded slowly. He began to understand that these humans were different. They did not just talk about peace, they fought for it with everything they had. The Valerians' distress signal had not only brought help, it had brought hope. But the galaxy was full of dangers, and this was only the beginning. The Valerian skies were still filled with the smoke of battle when the Deathworlder fleet took its position around the planet. The large metal ships floated silently in space, their dark surfaces shining under the twin suns. These were not ships, built for diplomacy or kindness. They were weapons built to survive and destroy. Inside the biggest ship, the command center was alive with activity. Captain Reyes stood at the front watching the holographic map of the Valerian system. His face was calm but focused. The battle had been just the first step. The real challenge was what came next. Reyes knew the Valerians were fragile, not warriors. Their technology was not advanced enough for war, and their people were peaceful by nature. If the invaders returned, the Valerians would not be ready. Reyes' fleet was here to make sure that never happened. In the Valerian capital, the leaders gathered again. They watched the human ships with a mix of awe and fear. Thalon, the Valerian leader, had many questions. "Why did you come with warships instead of peacekeepers?" Thalon asked again. "Our people asked for help, not for soldiers." Captain Reyes looked at him steadily. "Because peace is not given. It is earned, and sometimes you have to be strong to protect the weak." The Valerians did not fully understand. Their history was of kindness and talks, not battles and threats. But they saw the humans' strength, and they hoped it was enough. Days passed, and the Deathworlders began to set up defenses around the Valerian homeworld. They built strong shields and positioned their ships in ways that could stop any attack. The Valerians watched as humans moved quickly and efficiently. One Valerian scientist, a young woman named Lyra, was curious. She approached one of the human soldiers who had come down to their city. His name was Jax. "Why are you so strong? Why can you fight when others cannot?" Lyra asked. Jax smiled slightly. "We come from worlds where only the strongest survive, places where the air can burn your lungs and the ground tries to kill you. We learned to fight not because we wanted to, but because we had to." Lyra nodded slowly. "Your strength is frightening, but it also gives us hope." Meanwhile, Captain Reyes sent out scouts to find the invaders. They wanted to be ready if the enemy came back. The scouts found small groups of the invaders hiding in nearby space. The Deathworlders destroyed them quickly, sending a clear message. The Valerian world was under strong protection now. The Valerians started to feel safer, but some still worried. They were not used to such power around them. Their culture was peaceful, and many feared that the humans' way of war could change them forever. One night, Thalon and Captain Reyes met in a quiet garden under the twin moons. Thalon spoke softly. "Your way is not our way. We fear that if we rely on your strength, we may lose who we are." Reyes looked at the stars and then back at Thalon. "Strength does not change who you are. It protects who you want to be. We fight so you can live in peace." The Valerian leader thought deeply about this. He realized that peace was not just the absence of war, but the power to prevent it. As the weeks passed, the Valerians learned more about the humans. They saw how the Deathworlders trained every day, preparing for battles that might never come. They watched as humans fixed their ships and cared for each other after fights. One day, the Valerians took a bold step. They asked the Deathworlders to teach them how to defend themselves. At first, the humans were surprised. They were used to fighting alone. But Captain Reyes agreed. "You will not become Deathworlders overnight," he said. "But you can learn to survive." The training was hard. Valerian bodies were not built for battle, but their minds were sharp. The humans taught them how to move quickly, how to use their environment, and how to think like warriors. Lyra joined the training. She wanted to protect her people with more than just science. She found that she could be strong in ways she never imagined. The Valerians also began to share their knowledge. Their scientists worked with human engineers to improve defenses and develop new technologies. Together, they built better shields and weapons that could keep their world safe. But not All was peaceful. Rumors spread that the invaders were gathering new forces. The brutal empire that attacked the Valerians was not done. They would return stronger and more dangerous. Captain Reyes called a meeting with the Valerian leaders. "We are not just protecting a small world anymore," he said. "The galaxy is watching. Our enemies will come back and we must be ready. Together." Thalen nodded. He saw that the Deathworlders were not just soldiers. They were protectors and teachers. The Valerians would need their strength and their knowledge to survive. And so the once peaceful Valerians began to change. Not in body, but in spirit. They learned that sometimes, to keep peace, you must be ready to fight. And with the Deathworlders by their side, they were no longer alone. The calm before the storm was short. The Valerian world had only just begun to breathe easier when the alarm sounded across the planet. Scouts from the Deathworlders detected a large fleet approaching fast, far bigger than the last one. The invaders were coming back, and they were not alone. Captain Reyes stood on the command deck of the flagship, his eyes sharp on the approaching enemy ships. The Valerian leaders gathered close, their faces pale but determined. This would be the true test of the new alliance. The invader fleet moved like a dark cloud, their metal hulls gleaming ominously. They came with thousands of fighters and powerful war machines. The Valerians could only watch, holding hands and praying while the Deathworlders prepared for battle. Reyes gave orders with calm authority. "All ships to battle stations, prepare shields, ready weapons. We will not let them take this world." The first shots echoed through space as the two fleets clashed. The invaders fired heavy plasma beams that lit up the dark sky. The Deathworlders responded with rapid laser fire and missile volleys. The space between the ships became a chaotic dance of destruction. On the Valerian surface, people gathered in safe zones. Children clung to their parents, and elders prayed for a miracle. But, even in fear, hope burned bright. The humans fought with fierce courage and skill. In the thick of battle, a squad of Deathworlder fighters led by Lieutenant Jax took a dangerous mission. The invaders had deployed a massive warship that was trying to break through the defense line. Jax's squad had to destroy it before it reached the planet. They flew fast and low, weaving through enemy fire. Jax's voice came over the radio, steady but tense. "Hold tight. We're going in." The fighters launched missiles, dodged blasts, and fired everything they had. The warship shook from the attack, but it fought back hard. The battle was brutal, and many fighters were lost. Back on the command ship, Captain Reyes coordinated the fight. His voice was calm but firm. "Focus fire on the warship, don't let it reach the planet." The Valerians watched the sky, awed by the human pilot's bravery. They saw not just soldiers but warriors fighting for a cause greater than themselves. As the battle raged, the Valerian scientists worked alongside the human engineers. They used the information from the fight to improve the planet's defenses. New shield generators were activated, and emergency systems prepared for the worst. Then, in a sudden, powerful strike, the Deathworlders unleashed their secret weapon, the ground assault teams. These elite soldiers, trained for the harshest conditions, boarded small ships and dropped onto the invader warship. The boarding fight was fierce and close. The invaders fought with desperate strength, but the Deathworlders were relentless. They moved like shadows through the ship's corridors, disabling weapons and taking control. Lieutenant Jax led his team through the chaos. "Move fast. No mercy," he ordered. They fought with the deadly precision learned from years on deadly worlds. After hours of intense combat, the invaders' warship was theirs. The ship's engines were destroyed, and its weapons silenced. The invaders began to retreat, their morale broken. The Valerian world was safe once more. The sky cleared, and the stars shone brightly above the battered but proud planet. Captain Reyes stood beside Thalan as they watched the retreating fleet. "This is only the beginning," Reyes said. "They will come back, but we will be ready." Thalan nodded slowly, feeling a new respect for the humans. They had saved his people not just with weapons, but with heart and courage. The Valerians realized that the Deathworlders were not just warriors from harsh planets. They were defenders who would fight for those who could not fight for themselves. That Night, the Valerian people celebrated quietly. They honored the humans who had saved them and began to believe in their new strength. But deep in the shadows of the galaxy, new eyes watched the battle's outcome. A darker, more powerful force was preparing to strike. The war for the Valerian world was far from over. The Valerian skies had cleared, but the sense of danger lingered. The great battle had ended with victory, but victory came with a heavy cost. Parts of cities lay in ruins, and many Valerians had lost their homes. The invaders had retreated, but no one knew for how long. Captain Reyes and his Deathworlder fleet remained in orbit, watching, guarding. Their ships were battle-scarred but ready. The humans knew the enemy was not finished. The war was far from over. On the Valerian homeworld, the people began to rebuild. The cities that once stood tall on the cliffs were now broken stone and ash. But the Valerians had hope, a new hope born from the strength of their human allies. Thalon, the Valerian leader, called a meeting with Captain Reyes. They sat in the quiet hall of the capital, the broken view of the city visible through large windows. "You saved us," Thalon said softly, "but I want to understand you better. Why do you fight like this? Why do you bring such power and destruction?" Reyes looked out at the city. "Because we know what it means to lose everything. Our worlds are harsh, full of danger and death. We learned that to protect what we love, you must be ready to fight. We fight so others don't have to." Thalon nodded slowly. "We wanted peace, but you have shown us that peace is not weakness, it is strength." The Valerians began to see humans in a new light, not just as fierce warriors, but as guardians. They realized that sometimes power was needed to protect kindness and life. Lyra, the young scientist who had been training with the Deathworlders, joined the conversation. "Your strength is not only in your weapons," she said. "It is in your will to survive and protect. We want to learn from you." Rhea smiled. "And we want to learn from you too. Your science and knowledge are valuable. Together, we are stronger." With this understanding, the Valerians and Deathworlders began to work closer. They rebuilt the cities with new technology, blending Valerian design with human strength. The Valerians learned new ways to protect their world, while the humans learned about Valerian culture and wisdom. But the scars of war were not easy to heal. Some Valerians still feared the humans' power. They worried that their peaceful way of life might be lost in the process. There were quiet voices that said the humans were too dangerous, too wild. Thalon understood these fears. He spoke openly to his people, reminding them, "The Deathworlders are not here to change us. They are here to protect us. We keep our heart and soul, and they help keep it safe." Meanwhile, the Deathworlders sent out patrols beyond the Valerian system. They needed to know if the invaders would return, and if there were other threats waiting in the dark. One patrol came back with alarming news. Far beyond the known enemy fleet, a shadowy force was gathering, a powerful alien empire with ambitions to control the galaxy. They had watched the battle for the Valerians with interest. Now they were moving closer. Captain Reyes called an emergency meeting. "This is bigger than the Valerians," he said. "This empire wants to take what we protect. If we don't prepare, they will destroy us all." Thalon looked grave. "What can we do? Our people are still weak. We need allies." Reyes nodded. "We will reach out. The Deathworlders are not alone. There are others who stand against this darkness. We must unite." In the days that followed, messages were sent to distant stars, calls for alliance, for strength, for hope. The Valerians and Deathworlders knew that the coming fight would test them all, but now they stood together, not as weak and strong, but as partners. Lyra walked through the rebuilt streets, watching children play safely for the first time in months. She smiled, knowing that their world had a chance because they learned that strength and peace could live side by side, and above them the stars waited, full of dangers and possibilities. The war was not over. It was only the beginning of a greater story. The calm after the battle was short-lived. Though the Valerians and Deathworlders worked hard to rebuild and prepare, a darker shadow moved closer through the vast emptiness of space. The powerful alien empire known as the Zarkon Dominion was no ordinary enemy. It was a force of ruthless ambition, hungry for power and control. Captain Reyes studied the star maps in the command center. His brow was tight with worry. The Zarkon fleet was massive, far larger and more dangerous than any enemy the Deathworlders had faced before. They were closing in on the Valerian system quickly. "This is no longer just about one world," Reyes said during a meeting with Valerian leaders. "The Zarkon Dominion wants everything. They will not stop until they have taken the whole galaxy." Thalon listened carefully, understanding the gravity of the situation. The Valerians had asked for help once. Now, the entire galaxy might depend on their alliance with the Deathworlders. The Valerians felt fear, but also determination. Their peaceful world had been changed forever, but they would not give up. They had seen the strength of the humans. They had begun to fight. Reyes ordered the fleet to prepare for war. New weapons were installed, and training intensified. The Valerians trained alongside the Deathworlders, learning how to defend their world and their future. Lyra worked tirelessly with the scientists and engineers. Together with the humans, she helped develop new defenses, combining Valerian technology with human battle knowledge. They created stronger shields, faster communication systems, and more powerful weapons. Despite the preparations, there was tension among the Valerians. Some worried that war would destroy their way of life. Others believed that without fighting there was no future. One evening, Thalon met with his council and the human leaders. The room was filled with hope and fear. "We must find allies," Thalon said. "We cannot face the Zarkon alone." Captain Reyes nodded. "There are others out there, other worlds who do not want to be ruled by the Zarkon. We will send messages to them. We must unite or fall." Messages were sent across star systems calling for help and alliance. The response was slow but growing. Some answered, sending small fleets or support teams. Others were too far away or unwilling to risk war. Meanwhile, the Zarkon Dominion's forces advanced. Scouts reported their arrival near neighboring systems, taking control with overwhelming force. The Valerian people prepared for what might come. Children were taught basic survival skills. Families built shelters and stocked supplies. Even the most peaceful began to understand the cost of war. Captain Reyes led missions to gather intelligence on the Zarkon. His teams discovered that the Dominion used terrifying weapons, massive starships armed with energy cannons that could tear through planets. One scout reported, "They are not just soldiers. They have machines that seem alive, controlled by their will. They fight without mercy." The Deathworlders and Valerians knew they had to be smarter and stronger. They worked day and night to improve their defenses. Jax, the fighter pilot, trained new Valerian pilots, teaching them how to fly and fight. The growing alliance showed signs of hope. Valerians became more confident. Humans showed respect for the Valerians' courage and intelligence. Yet, tension remained. The Valerians struggled with the reality of war, and the humans remained focused on survival. Their worlds were different, but their goals were the same. One day, a distress signal arrived from a nearby system under attack by the Zarkon. Captain Reyes gathered his fleet. "This is our chance to show we fight not just for Valeria, but for freedom," he said. "We will move out, together." The fleet launched, moving with precision and speed. The battle that followed was fierce. The Zarkon forces were powerful, but the Deathworlders and their new allies fought with skill and heart. Jax led a squadron of Valerian and human pilots, striking at the enemy's weak points. The Valerians fired their new weapons with growing confidence. After hours of battle, the Zarkon retreated, their forces broken but not destroyed. Back on Valeria, the people celebrated. They had won a victory, but they knew it was only the beginning. "Captain," Reyes addressed the crowd. "We face a long fight, but together we are stronger. We fight for peace, for survival, and for our future." Thalon stood beside him, proud and hopeful. The Valerians had come far from the frightened species that once begged for help. The galaxy was watching. The battle for freedom had begun. The stars above Valeria sparkled cold and distant, but below them the world had changed forever. The peaceful planet was no longer just a quiet place of gentle green hills and soft winds. It was now a battlefield, a symbol of hope and resistance against a galaxy filled with darkness. Captain Reyes stood on the deck of the flagship, looking out at the Valerian world below. The fleet was ready, the soldiers prepared, and the alliance strong. Months of training, fighting, and rebuilding had brought the Valerians and the Deathworlders together as one. Thalon joined him, his green eyes steady with determination. "Our people are ready," he said. "But this fight, it will be hard." Reyes nodded. "It will be the hardest fight of our lives. But we fight not alone, we fight together." The Zarkon Dominion had returned, and this time they brought their full power. Massive warships darkened the skies above Valeria, their weapons ready to destroy everything. The galaxy held its breath as the battle began. The Valerian and Deathworlder forces moved as one. The humans led with their ruthless tactics and powerful weapons. The Valerians brought their knowledge of their world and their newly learned skills. Together they formed a shield around the planet. In space, the fight was fierce. The Zarkon ships fired energy blasts that lit up the darkness. The Deathworlders returned fire with lasers, missiles, and skillful maneuvers. The Valerian fighters, now trained and brave, joined the battle with precision. On the ground, the Valerian warriors defended their cities with courage. Lyra led teams who operated new defense systems, combining Valerian technology with Deathworlder weaponry. The streets echoed with the sounds of battle, but also with the hope of survival. During one critical moment, a group of Zarkon war machines broke through the outer defenses. Lieutenant Jax and his squadron quickly responded, racing to stop the threat. Flying low over the city, they dodged fire and struck hard. "Hold your line," Jax shouted through his comm. "We protect our home." The battle was brutal and close, but the combined strength of the Valerians and Deathworlders held firm. The invaders were pushed back step by step. Captain Reyes coordinated the fleet with steady hands. "Focus on their command ship," he ordered. "If we take it down, their forces will lose control." The fleet concentrated fire on the massive command ship. It shook under the attack, and slowly it began to fall apart. The Zarkon forces wavered, their power breaking. Finally, with a thunderous explosion, the command ship was destroyed. The Zarkon fleet retreated, their defeat clear. The Valerian world was saved. But the victory was not just in battle. It was in the unity, the trust and friendship that had grown between two very different peoples. After the fight, Captain Reyes and Thalon stood together before the gathered crowd. Reyes spoke first, his voice steady and strong. "We are not just survivors, we are defenders. This victory shows what can be done when we stand together." Thalon smiled and added, "Our worlds are different, but our hearts beat the same. We will protect our home and each other." Lyra stepped forward and addressed the crowd as well. "We have learned that strength is not just in weapons. It is in courage, in hope, and in unity. Together we will build a future where peace is not just a dream." The Valerian people cheered, their spirits lifted. The Deathworlders were no longer strangers, they were heroes, teachers, and friends. The galaxy had witnessed a new power rising, not a single race, but an alliance forged in fire and hope. As the stars shone above, the Valerians and Deathworlders looked to the future. The war was not over, but they were ready. Together they would face whatever came next, and in that unity, they found their greatest strength.